Welcome to Adventus Latinus, the arrival of the Latins. The beginning of the Roman people takes us all the way back to a story you already know, a story where a young prince named Aeneas was carrying his father out of the burning city of Troy. This story will end much, much later, thousands of years later, when the last of the Roman Empire's legacy will finally fall to the Ottoman Turks. But let's start back at the beginning. What would the Greeks say about this? Pause for a second. Think, what would the Greeks say about this? A Greek perspective would include victory. Like, this is the Trojan horse. Athena helped us be wise and cunning. We were able to hide inside the Trojan horse. We won. This helped bring us victory. Yes. But what would the Trojans say? The Greeks would say this is great strategy for the win, but the Trojans would say they're dirty, rotten, stinking liars, offending the gods. This was offensive to the gods. It was supposed to be a gift for the gods, and they're hiding inside, and they tricked us, tricked the gods, offended. This is not good. The Trojans were then destroyed. But one noble and courageous man named Aeneas, who could have been shot by Diomedes of Argos. But Diomedes of Argos admired this man. He's carrying his father Anchises out of the burning city. And instead of getting shot by Diomedes, he let him go because he was noble and courageous. Admired. And there's a lot of art of this scene. Why is there so much art of this scene? Aeneas carrying his father. Well, there's more to it. Who was his father? Anchises? Who did his father have an affair with? Aphrodite. Or do we call her Venus now? The goddess of love. So Aeneas is actually the offspring of Venus, Aphrodite. But we're going to start calling her Venus now because look at all the art. That sculpture, that looks like a very Roman sculpture because Roman sculptures are just a little thicker, stronger looking muscles than the Greek. Anyway, Venus is watching over this situation because Venus wants to make sure that her son escapes. Now, sadly, when Aeneas does escape, his wife gets killed. And that leaves him very sad. And Aeneas sails off in a storm. Do you remember the Golden Apple? Are we done with this story yet? It all started from the Golden Apple. Juno stirs up this storm because she's grumpy about a bunch of things. Neptune gets mad that Juno was messing up with his stuff. The Mount Olympus gods are very nervous about what was foretold, that in Italy, Aeneas will give rise to a race, both noble and courageous, a race which will become known to all nations. Juno is wrathful. Who is Juno? What's the Greek name on Juno? Hera? Because her favorite city, Carthage, is going to get destroyed by Aeneas' descendants. That's one of the predictions in Mount Olympus. That's not good. So here's Aeneas sailing off in a storm. Does this sound familiar? Is this story kind of like the Ulysses Odysseus story? Sails off in a storm. And look at the map. Isn't that map kind of the same map as the Odysseus? Kind of similar, although he doesn't end up back in Greece on Ithaca. Ithaca is right there. This story ends in central Italy, where he will start the Latin people. Aeneas stops in Carthage first. He actually spends a year there because he meets Queen Dido. Queen Dido. Now that name is familiar. Wasn't she the one that helped discover purple fabric when her dog bit on a shellfish and his mouth turned purple? So Dido is hanging out in Carthage with Aeneas and everyone, and there's a lot of art about this. And when they're hanging out, Dido wants Aeneas to retell the entire Trojan War story. And how do you think he's going to tell it? That the Greeks are great and amazing, and they're so strong that they could last 10 years and then trick everybody at the end with a Trojan horse, or they're more wise, he's going to tell that story to make it look like the Trojans were the good guys and the Greeks are the bad guys. And who's on the side of Aeneas? His mom, Aphrodite. I mean, Venus. Who's that baby? Who's the baby? Cupid. Cupid, pull back your bow and let your arrow go straight to your lover's heart. And who is about to fall in love? Dido and Aeneas. And you can click on this slideshow. You can watch the entire 1-hour opera about Dido and Aeneas because of their love. Now, Dido wants to stay in Carthage. Aeneas was not supposed to stay in Carthage. That was not his destiny. But since Aeneas is the offspring of Venus, Venus just had to get involved, just had to start messing. Do the gods ever mess with people's lives? Venus visits Aeneas in Carthage and makes sure you don't stay in Carthage. Keep going to central Italy because that's your destiny. Jupiter sends Mercury to remind Aeneas of his duty. Courageous and noble. Duty, someone with duty. Would he leave his love and go perform his duty? Is that noble and courageous? These Romans, they're so noble and courageous. Dido's heart is broken. Dido commits suicide by stabbing herself on a pyre with Aeneas' sword. She is so heartbroken. And that will show the weakness of the Carthage people and the strength and honor of the Latin people that Aeneas is about to settle in this area called Latium. Alba Longa is the little kingdom that he lands in and stays in. And I've been to Alba Longa on the field trip. Go to Greece and Italy. 2 different times we had hotels in Alba Longa where there's this huge volcanic lake. It's not a dangerous volcano anymore. But if you look across, this was the first year when we were staying, and you looked across and you see this little complex. That's actually the Pope's summer home, San Gandolfino. So then the next time we went there, they actually got us a hotel right down the road. Like literally, that is the Pope's summer home that we could see. And this is my little balcony where I was eating a can of nuts. Alba Longa is now a developed area, of course, but back then, this is the first person who ever showed up, the person named Aeneas. Now, if you skip on ahead 12 generations, we have a whole nother story to tell because we haven't started the city of Rome yet. We just started a kingdom called the Latins in Alba Longa. So what is this next part of the story supposed to be? This shepherd is a little confused why a wolf is caring for 2 little babies. What in the world is this all about? Well, this is now the story of the first king of Rome named Romulus. And his name Romulus is where the word Rome comes from. And this is the symbol because he had a twin brother. These kids were actually not supposed to be born. Here we go again with the Greek gods, the Roman gods, because Mars was having an affair with someone he's not supposed to have an affair with, and she had 2 kids. And those 2 kids were named Romulus and Remus. They were left in a basket and put out in the river, thinking that they would then eventually drown. But a she-wolf finds them and raises them and nurtures them. And then later on, a shepherd finds these 2 babies. Does he kill the she-wolf because he's afraid that the wolf is going to eat the babies, or what's going on? But then the shepherd will raise them. So in class, we will watch this cartoon and highlight some of the other events of the story. But if you do skip ahead to the end of the story, Romulus and Remus are brothers who are offspring of Mars. Mars is the god of war. They come to a place where there are 7 hills on the bend of the Tiber River. One of the hills is Palatine, and Romulus says, we should start our city on Palatine Hill. Remus says, you're an idiot, and your hill stinks. And he wanted to start it on the Aventine Hill. So what do you do when 2 brothers can't get along? They fight. And the 7 hills of Rome are the fighting zones, where they even were trying to organize this to be a city, but the brothers kept fighting, and eventually Palatine Hill is going to be it, because Romulus kills his brother Remus and starts building the city of Rome on Palatine Hill. and other hills close by. And notice that the Vatican Hill is just across the road there. The Vatican Hill is where Vatican City is. This is the beginning of Rome, Palatine, Capitoline Hill, where we get the word capital. And there is going to be one of the most spectacular cities ever on the planet. Spoiler alert for when we skip ahead hundreds and hundreds of years of Roman history, when they have the city of Rome become one of the greatest cities in all of history. Most important place. And lots of stories are about to happen here. So take a look at the Palatine Hill. This is where it all began. Thank you for listening to this video. And I'm sorry that it was so tragic when the brothers could not get along. We'll share more about this later. Have a good day.